Good afternoon. How's
or
it going,
whatever
Steve?
time you may have,
Whatever time it is, we've lost all track of time and space and everything.
which is
So we are back with another Hot Topics discussion. And this one, Steve, actually, I will be honest, when you submitted this one, I thought it was a little more, a little outside the realm of some of the blogs that you normally write, but I was very interested because it focused on digital ad placement. The title of the article is Brand Safety. Um, but you also, you mentioned how this relates to radio, but you also mentioned a gentleman that you called, or I guess this is what he is called, the ad contrarian,
yeah.
Bob Hoffman, and his blog. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how it related to this article?
Well, I stumbled across him years ago, and I don't know his exact background, but he apparently was pretty big wig in the advertising industry for a very long time. And he's out of it, and he calls truth to power all the time. And his particular target is always digital, and not that he's anti-digital marketing. It's the amount of faith people put in it, and the amount that the hallelujahs of, well, we got 2 million impressions, and our CPM was only X, and it's like, well, did that move the needle? Did that sell your product? And his big thing is he's always exposing. He's not exposing. He's exposing people, or giving light to people who've exposed the literally billions of dollars of fraud that
Yeah.
exists in the digital advertising industry. But that particular one struck me because of the study that found how many Fortune 500 companies were putting their ads next to porn or on porn sites. That I guarantee you that
Don't
CNN
know.
didn't go in
Yeah.
and just, hey, programmatically, make sure you get me on Pornhub all the time. Because
Nobody's, yeah, I don't think anybody, you're right. They're not setting out for that. That's not the goal. So
it's,
it's unbeknownst to them. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's, Procter and Gamble's not sitting there going, yeah, that's where I want Tide. Um, so, which gets me to compare it to radio. I mean, again, I'm not anti-digital. I think there's a lot of things about digital advertising that are very good. I mean, if you're not in the first page of Google, you're missing something. And if you can precisely target on social media, you have a certain, there's an advantage to that.
The precision, there's the precision part of it that is has come leaps. You really can't find that in many other media
No,
the way you can find it with digital.
no, but it has its limits, and it always comes down to message and all that kind of stuff. But when you think of things like brand safety, I mean, there was a time where when I worked at an ad agency, and we had a client that had a no Rush Limbaugh mandate, so we could not buy any of the Rush Limbaugh shows. Look, nothing against that, but if you didn't
That
want
was
your
their
brand to show
choice.
him. I mean, now there are other companies, there were other advertisers that we had that said, yeah, no, we want to be on Rush Limbaugh because he's huge, and his fans are there, and we want to be associated with that. But the key there is they had a choice, right?
Right.
They knew, no, I don't want, yes, I do want. Howard Stern back in the day was the same way.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
ran away from him because of who he was, and some people flocked to him. Again, it was a choice. So you weren't worried that, oh, my ad would accidentally show up on that place when I didn't want it to. But in the digital world, they claim there's control, but there's really not. It just gets put out there on sites, and there are fake sites out there, that we've all been spammed with, right?
Yeah.
That get billions of dollars in
Trickery.
advertising, and so the whole point of that was not to denigrate digital, but to say, look, when you buy radio, you know what you're getting.
Right. Right.
You know the audience you're buying. If you just contracted and you're going to run a spot in morning drive, and you get your pre-log, and it says it's going to run at 6:42, it runs right around 6:42.
Yep.
You
And
know,
you
it,
know the personalities, right? You know who's going to be talking. If you have if you have an endorsement with one of them, you know who it is. You know essentially their brand and what they stand for, and well, maybe somewhat based on
well,
what they say on the air.
but the context of where your ad will
Right.
appear, right? So you're comfortable with that, and if you choose not to be there, that's fine. I mean, it's and plus there's no there's no fraud. I mean, you could pay for a digital ad that shows up off your screen, but because it was technically in the browser window, you paid for it.
Hmm.
Radio's not, sending out affidavits going, oh yeah, we ran 20 spots last week and not running them. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, they
So,
would be in trouble. Yeah, there would be a problem if that was happening. No,
but
I liked the angle on this, and I thought I always love when you encourage people to go and check out, someone else in a
Hmm.
particular field. And so I think we have the link. If you guys check out the article on our blog, it was written February 20th, called Brand Safety. Steve gives you, the link where you can go on, and I assume you subscribe to this newsletter. How often does this come out, Steve?
He only comes out he used to come out every a few times a week. He's backed off on it, but he's written a bunch of books. And I think that just from a radio point of view, some of the information he shares, and it's not just he has very deep opinions. There's no question about it, but he's basing them off of actual studies that have been done. And some of that information, I think, from a radio sales point of view, is beneficial because I'm not putting down digital, but you're buying programmatic ads. Do you know exactly where every one of your ads showed up last week? Do you know?
The answer is no. I'm sure the
Right.
answer is no. Every place, maybe they know some places, but do you know
Right.
everywhere? Right. And it's
So,
sort of like you said, it's out of there. It gets to the point where it's almost out of the control, which is a lot different than what you run into for radio. I really liked this piece, Steve, and thank you for talking about it with us. Everyone, I encourage you to check out our blog. It comes out every Thursday, Hot Topics, and we'll be back soon covering some new content
who knows?
very soon, and look forward to that discussing that with you, Steve. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.